You have been using Claude wrong. And while you are stuck copy-pasting text from chat mode and manually doing something with it, someone else has already finished their actual work. Claude has 3 modes: chat, code, and cowork, and most people never leave chat. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what cowork is, how to set it up correctly so it behaves like a trained employee rather than a generic AI tool, and the specific workflows that turn hours of manual work into minutes of automated output. By the end of this video, you will have everything you need to start using Cowork as a real productivity system, rather than just a smarter way to answer questions. Before we get into the setup, it is worth being clear on what each mode is actually for, because the distinction matters for how you use the platform. Chat is what most people use. You ask a question, Claude answers. You copy the text and manually do something with it. Fine for quick questions, completely wrong for any serious workflow. Code is for developers. It writes scripts, builds products, executes technical tasks. Powerful, but it requires technical knowledge to use effectively. Cowork is neither of those. It is not a chatbot. It is not a coding environment. It is an AI employee that operates your actual computer, reads and writes your real files, and completes entire workflows from start to finish while you do something else entirely. The output from Cowork is not text you copy and paste somewhere. It is finished files, real Excel spreadsheets with working formulas, real Word documents formatted and ready to send, real PowerPoint presentations with proper structure and design. The shift in thinking required to use Cowork well is significant, but once you make it, everything changes. You stop thinking about what Claude can generate for you and start thinking about what work Claude can complete for you. There are 4 situations where you should use Cowork instead of chat. Any complex task you want handled from start to finish. Anything that touches your local files directly. Repetitive work you do every week. And anything that combines file work with online research. If your task hits any of those 4 categories, chat is the wrong tool. The most important section of this entire guide is the setup. Most people skip this and then wonder why their Cowork outputs feel generic and inconsistent. Do this correctly, and Cowork behave like a trained employee who already understands your business. Skip it, and you will get average AI output every single time. The first step is creating a dedicated working folder. Do not point Claude at your entire documents folder. That creates chaos. Create one new folder and call it something clear like Cowork Station. Inside that folder, create 3 subfolders. Context, which holds everything Claude needs to know about you. Projects, which is where active work lives. Output, which is where finished deliverables are saved. The second step is creating your context files. This is the real unlock that most people miss entirely. Inside your context folder, create 3 simple markdown files. The first is an About Me file. 2 paragraphs covering your role, your business, your audience, and what you care about. Claude reads this at the start of every session and uses it to make every output relevant to your specific situation, rather than generic. The second is a brand voice file. Your tone, your writing style, examples of how you actually communicate. Include words and phrases you use regularly. Include words you never use. This is what makes Claude sound like you, rather than sounding like AI. The third is a working preferences file. How you want documents structured, how you want Claude to handle ambiguity should it make a judgment call or ask you first. What format your deliverables should follow. These preferences carry into every session automatically. The third step is setting global instructions. Go to Settings, find the Cowork section, and write your global instructions there. Think of this as the standing brief you give a new hire on their first day. Tone, role, output format, default approach. You write it once, and it applies to everything you do in Cowork from that point forward. 5 minutes of setup removes weeks of friction. Let me show you a workflow that would normally take a trained person 2 to 3 hours. 6 client meeting transcripts, discovery calls, strategy sessions, follow-ups, messy text files with crosstalk, unclear action items, and vague deadlines like sometime next week. What is needed from those 6 files is a project tracker for each client and a follow-up email confirming next steps with each one. The prompt is straightforward. Process these 6 meeting transcripts. For each client, create an Excel project tracker with tasks, owners, deadlines, and priority levels. Also, create a follow-up email under 150 words confirming next steps in a professional but conversational tone. Save all files to the output folder. What happens next is the part that genuinely impresses people the first time they see it. Claude does not process these files one by one. It runs parallel workflows simultaneously, reading multiple files at the same time, extracting different data types from each one, cross-referencing information across transcripts. 3 minutes later, the output folder contains finished Excel files with proper column structure. Deadlines that were vague in the transcript have been converted to actual calendar dates. Priority levels are color-coded with conditional formatting. There is a summary row at the bottom of each tracker. The follow-up emails reference specific discussion points from each individual call. They confirm the real action items with real deadlines. Each one is under 150 words and ready to send without editing. That is 2 to 3 hours of manual work completed in 3 minutes. And the prompt that produced it was not complicated. It described the output like briefing a person and receiving back finished files. The second workflow is the kind of research task that normally takes an entire afternoon. Understanding what is working on YouTube right now in a specific content niche. The top performing videos from the last 30 days. What hooks they use, what topics are getting traction, and where the content gaps are. Normally, this involves 2 hours of tab switching. Open the platform, search, scroll, open individual videos, check metrics, take notes, switch tabs, repeat. By the end, you have a messy document and a headache. The prompt for Cowork describes exactly what is needed. Search for top-performing videos in a specific niche from the last 30 days. For each of the top 10, extract the title, view count, hook style, and main topic. Identify 3 content gaps, topics with strong search demand but low existing competition. Save everything as a research report in Word format with an executive summary at the top. Cowork opens the web, runs the searches, pulls the data, cross-references results in parallel. 12 minutes later, the Word document contains the top 10 videos ranked by views, the hook style categorized for each one, 3 content gaps with the reasoning behind each recommendation, and an executive summary that reads like something a strategist produced. Then, 1 extra line changes everything. Add to the prompt also recommend which of these 3 content gaps best fits my channel based on my context files. Now Claude cross-references the research against everything it knows about your audience, your style, and your existing content. It does not just find gaps. It tells you which specific gap belongs to you. That is not a research tool. That is an analyst who already knows your business. The limitation most people hit with Cowork is that while Claude remembers your general setup, it does not retain the specific work context from previous runs. What decisions were made, what adjustments you made to the output, what good looked like for a particular task. So when you run a similar workflow again, you are effectively starting from scratch at the task level. Projects solve this. A project is not just a file container. It is a persistent workspace where your instructions, your context, and your work history accumulate together. Every time you run a workflow inside a project, Claude builds on what was done before, rather than starting fresh. Create 1 project per recurring workflow type. Client deliverables, content production, weekly reporting, admin and finance. Inside each project, add the specific instructions for that workflow type, on top of your global context. The column order for your spreadsheets, the word limit for your emails, the specific structure your deliverables should follow. When you run the same workflow again inside that project, Claude already knows all of it. The spreadsheet follows your column order automatically. The emails match your established tone. The formatting is consistent without you restating anything. And the previous outputs are already there as reference for how this specific type of work should look. Over time, each project becomes more aligned with exactly how you work. Not just a tool running tasks, but a system accumulating context and improving with every use. Projects give you memory. Skills give you repeatability. A skill is an instruction file that tells Claude precisely how to handle a specific type of work. A detailed playbook for one workflow that Claude follows consistently every single time. Cowork comes with built-in skills for common file types. When you ask Claude to build a spreadsheet, it automatically pulls the Excel skill and produces proper formulas, charts, and formatting, rather than a raw data dump. Same for Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, and PDF creation. Custom skills are where this becomes genuinely powerful. Without a skill loaded, Claude produces a predictable, generic structure with no personality. With a custom skill built around your specific workflow and voice, the output reads like something you wrote, rather than something a machine generated. The structure matches what actually works for your audience. The tone is yours. The specific steps follow the process you have refined over time. Build a custom skill for any workflow you repeat more than a few times a week. Weekly reports, sales proposals, client briefs. Standard operating procedures. You write the playbook once. Claude follows it every time without being reminded. Schedule tasks are where Cowork shifts from being a very good productivity tool to being something genuinely different. You write a prompt once, set a schedule, and Claude runs the workflow automatically at the time you specified. No code, no third-party integrations, no manual triggering. A morning briefing that runs every day at 9 in the morning, checking your inbox, pulling your calendar, extracting action items and deadlines, saving a clean summary to a folder means you wake up to a brief that tells you exactly what needs your attention before you have opened a single app. A weekly content research task that runs every Monday, searching for trending topics in your niche from the past 7 days, identifying content opportunities based on search volume and competition. Saving a brief to your content project means your content calendar research is already done before you sit down to plan your week. 3 practical things to know before you start scheduling. Tasks only run while your computer is awake and Claude Desktop is open. Each scheduled task counts against your usage, so keep prompts tight. Always test a workflow manually before scheduling it. But when it is running, you are simply not doing that work anymore. The system handles it. Dispatch extends this to your phone. Once set up, you can send Claude a task from your phone at any time, and the full workflow runs on your desktop. Research reports triggered from the gym. Content audits started from a coffee shop. Client deliverables initiated before a meeting. Your phone becomes the remote control, and your desktop does the work. 3 things to remember from everything in this guide. Setup is everything. Your folder structure and context files are not optional details. They are what make the difference between generic AI output and a system that feels like a trained employee. Use projects for anything you do more than once. The memory component is what makes Cowork compound and improve over time. And scheduled tasks are the real unlock. That is how you go from using AI to having AI work for you, which is an entirely different category. Start this week with the setup. Create the folder, write the 3 markdown files, set your global instructions, then run one real workflow through it and compare the output to what you would have produced in chat mode. The difference will be immediately obvious. And if you want to turn this kind of AI leverage into a real business, in the next video, I am doing a complete masterclass on how I would build a $10,000 a month one-person business using Claude right now. The exact model, the exact tools, the exact steps in order. Click the next video, and I will see you there. If this gave you something valuable, leave a comment telling me the one thing you're committing to change about how you use AI. I want to hear it.